welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Nicole and I'm a part-time reseller on Poshmark. And normally I do videos here on YouTube on different kind of thrift hauls, so Goodwill haul, Salvation Army haul, and just videos like that in general. But this time I actually have a different kind of video. I actually have a biggest regrets and lessons learned from reselling. So just a little bit of background, I've actually been reselling for about 4 years now. It's crazy, I can't believe it's been that long. But I kind of wanted to share some of the biggest regrets and lessons learned that I have with you all, in case you're new or in case you just want to learn too, because these are things that I'm still learning to this day, and I think this is just really helpful for anyone else out there. So if you like this video, comment below like what your biggest regrets or your biggest lessons learned are, and also feel free to subscribe if you like content like this. I do all things reseller, and I will definitely continue to do more videos like this in the future. Alright, so my first biggest regret is not picking up certain items because I didn't know their worth. So for the first example I have of this, I was thrifting at a yellow tag thrift store a while ago, and I saw a pair of Spanx faux leather leggings, and at this time I was doing a lot of questionnaires on Instagram of should I pick this up or should I not pick this up, and those were really helpful when I was first starting because it was getting me to know like what brands and sizes were really good to pick up. And I posted this and I said, should I pick them up? And an overwhelming majority of the people said yes, pick it up, hands down. Like Spanx faux leather leggings you always pick up if you see. And I disregarded the size and the price and everything, and I actually ended up checking out before I looked at the results because I was actually in a rush that day, so I just kind of went really quickly and kind of just went by a judgment that my best judgment that I could make, and basically I didn't pick them up. And when I looked at the poll results after the fact, I was shocked to see that most of the people said pick them up. And I didn't really know why at first, but then I looked into it and I googled comps and I saw that they sell really expensive. And so then I looked back and I was like, you know what, I have to just pick them up going forward. And then every time I found them since, which was 2 times, I picked them up and they sold over $70 each, and I picked them up for under $5 each. So those really sell well, and so that kind of is the overall first thing, is just make sure you know what brands are good, which brands are not good, and make sure you pick up things that, you know, are worth a lot. And in my case, maybe do some research before you go sourcing to find out which brands are good, and maybe take a look at the Instagram results before you check out. These are all things that are really helpful and will definitely help me going forward to make sure I pick up the right brands. Alright, the next item on the list is actually just picking up brands because I thought they were good brands at some point. A lot of the brands that like were good maybe a year ago might not be really good right now, and even a brand that was good a month ago might not be that good. And I think it all depends on the season and what's trending and what, you know, people are looking for. So a good thing to do is actually look up what is trending at that specific moment that you're going sourcing, and make sure you know like if this is a good brand right now, not if it was a good brand like a year ago or even 5 months ago or whatever. You want to make sure it's good right now. And a good example of this is actually I've actually picked up Lululemon, Fabletics, any of like those athletic brands that like I've always thought were like really good. And back when the pandemic first started, they were like really good and everyone wanted them because everyone wanted to wear loungewear while they were working from home. And so the first couple of times I went sourcing, I was always trying to find those brands, and I always had a hard time finding them. But then I eventually started finding them more, and I was like, oh, I'll have to pick them up every single time. And I would do that, and then after a certain point I kind of stopped and I started realizing maybe I don't need to pick these up every time because they're just sitting. And I actually have a lot of Lululemon and Fabletics and other athletic brands like that sitting in my closet that I once thought were really good brands that would sell really well and now are just sitting. And so maybe it wasn't worth picking up all of those, especially if they were at a higher cost. So just because you think it's a good brand doesn't necessarily mean you should pick it up. It might not actually sell and it might just sit in your closet for a very long time. Alright, so the third thing that I regret doing is listing anything and everything that I have. When I first started reselling, I was just trying to sell things to get rid of them. I was just listing anything that was in my space that I didn't want. And I wasn't really considering the fact that a lot of things don't really sell super well, especially on Poshmark. If you get something that's like a cheaper item, like that is probably worth under $10, it's not going to sell well, because then you have to factor in that the buyer pays for shipping, which will then put it over that $10 mark. And I didn't really consider this at first, because I was like, well, I'm just gonna sell things to get rid of them. I'll list them for $5, make $2. And it was okay at that point. But it started becoming a point where I would just kind of list everything, and then my closet would just be full of things that like I wasn't proud of, I didn't really think would sell, and it was just because I wanted to get things listed. But I realized that that was just making my closet junky, and when somebody would come to my closet, they wouldn't see like a very organized professional thing. They would just see a bunch of like random objects and items that like, you know, had no purpose. So I started making sure that the things that I'm listing are things that I think will actually sell. They are good brands. They are like, you know, things that people would want right now. And I think that is very important to do, and I don't think listing anything and everything you have is good. The expression goes that quality is better than quantity. So even if you have a lot, it doesn't matter. You want to have more quality items, and if you have less quality items but you have more quantity of not so good items, you're gonna be better off with the first situation. So just make sure anything that you're listing, you're proud of, you think is going to sell, and it's worth listing. My next biggest regret is actually something I did way back when I first started reselling, and I kind of stopped after about a year or two, and it was just kind of selling things way too low. Like I mentioned, when I first started, I was just trying to get rid of things, so my cost of goods wasn't really high at all. It was practically zero, because it was just things from my own closet. But then I started just kind of selling things for like $5 or $10 or sometimes even $4, when, you know, Poshmark would then take $3, so then you'd only make $1. And I started doing this, and I realized that like this is maybe not even worth the hassle of me doing this, because I'm making $1 for something that's worth more than $1. And honestly, at that point, I probably could have taken them to like a Plato's Closet or any place like that and actually gotten more for them, but it was more effort to do that, because I'd have to actually drive out to the store. So for me, I realized that like a lot of the items I was selling way too cheap, and that like it was kind of like, why am I selling it this cheap? I'm not making any money from it. And so when I look back at like all my first purchases or my first sales, like they're all like less than $10, and now I'm looking back and I'm like, I probably could have made a lot more money, and this probably would have been a lot quicker of a journey. But I think it's just important to make sure that you don't just like sell things super cheap, unless you really aren't trying to do it for a job and you really just don't care. And you want to get rid of things. But like for me, I want to turn this into something, and I don't want to just make a lot of little sales. So I think selling them at a higher cost is probably better for me going forward. So just be aware of like the price that you're selling things at. And the final biggest regret / lesson learned is don't accept offers that are very low, and don't send offers that are very low. So this I have been guilty of many times, and I'm sure we've all been there, where you've been in a slump and you finally get an offer from someone, which sounds like such an exciting thing, and it's very low, and you want to, you know, counter or you want to decline, but then you're like, well, I want to get a sale, so then you accept it. And for me, I've done this, and I've realized that I've sold things way too low because I was just trying to get a sale, so I just wanted to accept the offer. And same thing goes for sending offers. So sometimes when sales are very slow, I try to send offers to likers, and I try to send an offer that I think someone's gonna really buy because I want to make a sale. And then I realize that like I'm sending an offer that's extremely low, and that might not really be worth the profit that I'm going to make from it. And so I've started to realize that like if something is not sitting and I have to send an offer super low, I might as well just relist the item, because at that point it's going to be fresh in the feed, and then more people will see it, and then maybe someone will buy it full price. So if sales are really slow and you get a really low offer, or you want to send a really low offer, think twice and think maybe I should relist instead. I did that yesterday with my entire closet and I made a sale almost instantly. So things, you have to have patience when it comes to these kind of things, but you also want to be careful and don't just fall into that slump and say, oh, well, you know, I'm just gonna accept it because why not? Because ultimately that's not gonna help you make extra money, and you wanna make more money so this is a smoother journey for you and you can get to where you wanna go going forward. So those are my 5 biggest regrets / lessons learned in reselling thus far. I'm sure there's other ones that I'm forgetting, but these are like the main ones that I think of when I think of like, what do I regret most about, you know, the journey thus far? And so I'm curious what your biggest regrets and lessons learned are, so comment them down below. I think this is a good place to have a conversation with other resellers and maybe help out someone that's new, and we could all kind of share our advice and lessons learned. I think it's really important to have videos like this because it's a very good place for someone to learn so they don't make the same mistakes. I actually learned from a lot of resellers over on Instagram, and I am so happy that I did, because there are a lot of things that I probably would have made a bigger mistake doing if I didn't have those people there to support me. So I really appreciate others, and I want to be that for other people as well. So feel free to subscribe if you like content like this, or if you want more videos like this, and let me know down below if you have any ideas of things that you want to see from me, and I'll try to put them together. And until then, I'll see you next time.